Hello peeps, welcome back to Big Deck Playa with me, Matt Sparks. Had a little bit of a break last week while I was away at a festival, but I am back. We're going to take a look at a deck posted on Hearthstone.com by Conan Lol, and this is a Warlock Demon Zoo deck. So here is the deck list. Now, I think most people have probably played or played against a Warlock Zoo deck at some point by now, because it's one of the classic decks. This one's a little different, but we haven't featured a kind of rush aggro deck in this style for a little while, so I thought we'd give it a try. And it's been pretty successful so far. I mean, Warlock Zoo decks are usually fairly successful anyway, but this one's got a few demons and stuff in it which you normally don't see. I mean, normally you get stuff like abusive sergeants and other things similar to that nature, but we don't really have anything like that in this deck, so it's a little different. So we have a Mortal Coil, just the one, just to finish something off and get yourself an extra card, so that's not too bad. 2 Power Overwhelmings. Now there are some things in this deck that have death rattles, so using Power Overwhelming on something that's going to probably die anyway with the death rattle is probably the most beneficial use of Power Overwhelming. And we've got some other things that you can use in combination with that as well to make the most of your cards. We have 2 Flame Imps because it's a 1 cost 3/2, so it's pretty awesome. Admittedly, you do take some damage in the process, but hopefully that shouldn't matter too much. We've got 2 Void Walkers, hopefully to aid your early minions in staying alive a bit longer. That's pretty much all they're there for, because they only do 1 damage, so they don't really trade very well, but it will hopefully prevent things that you've already got on the board from getting killed or getting traded. At 2 mana, we have a Direwolf Alpha. Keeping a Direwolf Alpha in your hand ready to make some trades, possibly. So, for example, you kill your Haunted Creeper off, you get your 2 1/1 Spectral Spiders. So maybe putting your Direwolf Alpha between those 2 spiders, if you need to kill off something, then you've got 2 2/1 spiders, which is obviously a lot better. We've also got things in this deck that generate imps as well, so that could be another thing for using with the Direwolf Alpha. As I mentioned, we've got 2 Haunted Creepers, pretty good early game creature. Only downside is it doesn't really do an awful lot of damage, so combining it with the Power Overwhelming because of the death rattle could be potentially pretty good, making it hit for 5, which is awesome, and obviously combining it with stuff like the Direwolf Alpha to make it do a little bit more damage too, which is also very nice. We've got 1 Ironbeak Owl. This is the only silence in the deck, so make sure you use it wisely. Depending on who you're playing against will determine whether you want to play it early or late. We have 2 Knife Jugglers. Got lots of fairly low cost minions in this deck, and we've also got minions that spawn more minions. So Knife Jugglers are very cool, and they synergize very well with this deck. They don't generally stay alive very long because most people are wise to get rid of them as quickly as they can. But you might get lucky and you might get to keep them for a little bit longer. 2 Nerubian Eggs. This is another target for your Power Overwhelming, obviously, because because it's going to die anyway because of the death rattle. I mean, that's what you want, is for it to die so you can get that 4/4 Nerubian. Very, very cool. Combines quite nicely again with the Direwolf Alpha, giving it some attack. At 3 mana, we have 2 Imp Gang Boss. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier when I said about the spawning of 1/1 Imps. So, having Imp Gang Boss out at the same time as Knife Juggler is pretty cool, because every time it takes damage, it summons 1/1 Imp, which then triggers the Knife Juggler effect. And having several Imps on the board is quite nice. You can put your Direwolf Alpha in there as well. Imp Gang Boss, because of its 2/4 stat line, it's pretty good for trading. You can probably trade a couple of minions that are low cost out of this, which is pretty nice. Also at 3 mana, we have 2 Void Terrors. Now, you don't really see Void Terrors in Zoo decks, because Void Terrors are generally quite slow. They're 3/3 for 3 on their own, which is not really very good, but because you've got stuff like Haunted Creepers and Nerubian Egg, they're prime targets for Void Terrors, really, because of the death rattles. Also, because we've got several imps as well on the board, maybe from your Imp Gang Boss. Using a Void Terror to put him between the 2 imps makes it a 5/5 for 3, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, it's not great, it's not the best, but it's pretty good. So the idea is to try and get the best stats on the Void Terror as possible. If you can get your Void Terror to be sort of 7 or 8 attack, when you put it out, it makes for a real big problem for your opponent. Because if they don't have like a BGH or a Polymorph or something in their hand ready to go, that's gonna be quite a problem for them. At 4 mana we have an Implosion. It's one of the few spells that we do have. This is also very nice if you have Knife Jugglers on the board, because obviously it will spawn a 1/1 Imp for each damage that it does. So that's very cool, and obviously if your Implosion doesn't quite kill your target, there's a chance that having a Knife Juggler on the board at the same time will then throw knives at whatever it was you were trying to kill and then kill it that way. So that's pretty nice indeed. Also at 4 mana we have a Defender of Argus, or 2 Defender of Argus in fact. These are quite nice to combo with the Imps, making them 2/2s with Taunt. It will certainly slow down your opponent if things are getting a little bit out of hand. Defender of Argus also combos very nicely with Haunted Creeper and the Nerubian Egg. Forcing your opponent into those creatures can be particularly useful. Also at 4 mana we have 2 Void Callers. Now you have to be very careful with the Void Caller. Again, this is another minion that has Death Rattle, so it can be really, really useful. There's only really 2 demons in this deck that I would want the Void Caller to bring out, which we haven't actually got to yet. If you've got several demons in your hand, it's probably not a good idea to kill this off. Always remember to attack first, if you can, with whatever it is you're about to kill off with your Void Terror. So for example, you got your Void Caller out, you do 3 damage to the face, and then you use your Void Terror, place it down next to your Void Caller. Your Void Terror then becomes a 6/7 for 3 mana, which is awesome, and your Void Caller brings out another demon. If you've only got Imp Gang Boss and Void Walkers in your hand, it's probably not really worth playing. You'd be better off waiting until you've got other things in your hand. At 5 mana, we have a Bane of Doom. I don't think I've really used Bane of Doom very much since I got it, and I still haven't used it in this deck in the few games that I've played with it. Also at 5 mana we have 2 Doom Guards. Now these are 2 of the demons you might want to bring out with your Void Caller, because then you don't get the battle cry of discarding 2 random cards, but you still get the charge. That's probably the best scenario for that situation. So if you can get your Void Caller out with a Void Terror, and then when your Void Caller dies you bring out the Doom Guard, you've then got like a 6/7 and a 5/7 on the board. Also at 5 mana we have a Loatheb. Not a demon, but Loatheb can be quite a pain in the backside for your opponent if used at the correct time. Obviously, depending on what class you're playing against, will depend on when the best time to play Loatheb is. Try and be aware of what AoE board clears that your opponent has or might have, and then try and play Loatheb around that as much as you can. And then finally at 9 mana we have a Mal'Ganis. Now this is another one that you might want to get out with your Void Caller, because chances are if you're playing really strong and you're playing really aggressively and you're doing really well, chances are you're not going to get to 9 mana to be able to play it normally. So Mal'Ganis in that respect is quite slow and doesn't really work that well, but if you can get him out with the Void Caller earlier in the game, he can be a real problem for your opponent, because not only is he a 9/7 and makes you immune, which means when you life tap you don't take any damage, which is awesome, but it also gives your other demons +2 attack and +2 health. So all of your imps that you've got on your board, from either Imp Gang Boss or your Implosion, they all suddenly become 3/3s, which is a lot stronger and a lot more difficult to get rid of. Obviously, if you don't have Mal'Ganis, there are other things that you could put in instead. Dr. Boom could be a valid replacement. Obviously, it's not going to be quite as good because of the buffing the demons and making your hero immune. I mean, that's quite a specialised effect. You're not really going to get that anywhere else. So that's the Demon Zoo deck. That is the deck. It's a pretty fun, and it has been pretty successful for me so far. I'm quite enjoying playing this deck, because as I say, I haven't really played a Warlock deck like this for a while. Well, it's been a long time, in fact. So I'm going to play a bunch more of this, probably until the new expansion comes out, and we can try out some of the new cards. So that is the Demon Zoo deck. There'll be a link in the description which will take you to hearthstone.com, so you can check this deck out for yourself. You can read the comments and read the write-up that the guy has given it. If you decide to play this, let me know how you get on. If you make any videos, feel free to link them to me and I'll be sure to check them out. If you have any suggestions for any future decks for future episodes, please bear in mind that the Grand Tournament is just around the corner. I will see you next time for some more Big Deck Player, hopefully, with any luck, the Grand Tournament will be released and I'll be able to show you some new cards. But until then, we'll just have to keep going with what we've got. Don't forget to check out the Hearthstone podcast that I've been doing as well, where we've been discussing some of the new cards that have been announced. I am really looking forward to it. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.